Hello, this is Julius from Basic Financials. Today I'm going to be trying to show you how to complete a tax return online if you are self-employed. Specifically, you're a subcontractor, but it could apply to other self-employments. Being a subcontractor is exactly the same as being self-employed. It's just a type of self-employment, that's all. And you might have tax deducted at source from the people who are paying you, whereas most other self-employments don't. But that's the only difference. So basically, you're saying that you're self-employed. You should have already registered for self-assessment and have a unique taxpayer reference. Hopefully, you've already set up a government gateway account and registered to use the self-assessment tax return service. And I'm assuming if you haven't done that, then have a look at some previous videos, because I think I've done a little bit on that. But also look on HMRC's website for registering. Now, I'm going to take you through to a clip in a minute where I am taking you through the process of doing the tax return. Bear with it, because I don't do it very often on that system, so I hope it helps anyway.
Okay, here we are with the government gateway account up. I'm about to log in. I'll explain about why everything's white on black in a minute, but I'm about to log in. So hopefully you will be familiar with this, having set up a gateway account and being in the process of about to log in. I'm going to sign in. It will go through to, it will give me an access code, which I know I can't get at the moment because that's going through to an old mobile. So I'm going to say I can't get this, and I'm going to put in my telephone number. That's the one, and you'll hear a telephone call in a second, I hope. There you go, and then I answer that. Okay, I've just entered in my access code and hopefully this will take me in. Okay, yep, that's done it. Right, now I'm going to go to my self-assessment because I've registered to use self-assessment. Hopefully you've done the same thing. Then we want to, I don't really want to do that, do I? I want to complete a tax return. So where is this? Deadline details, complete self-assessment tax return. There you go. Now, fill in your tax return. This tells you when you can't, when you can, and all of that sort of thing. Yeah. Now, I've already done some of this, so I'm going to take you back to the welcome part. And yeah, I think, and then tell us about you. Don't want to do that. And then, so done the tell us about you, which is putting in your name and address and everything. Most of it's already pre-populated because it already has your details. Now this is the bit, if you're self-employed and you have other income, this is where you tailor your tax return. So you basically just go through the questions, and when you answer in a particular way, it will then either give you options later on to complete those bits. For example, are you self-employed? Are you employed? Or not if you say no. So were you an employee? I've said yes. I'm going to say no, so that for the case of this one, because I'm doing this for self-employed people. Now this bit is a little bit weird because it doesn't actually ask if you're self-employed or not, but this is what it is asking. It's asking, do you have income that's less than £1,000 for a year from self-employment? What this really means is, so was your turnover more than £1,000 in total from my self-employment? Right, so yeah. So if you're allowed to earn up now £1,000 without having to pay any tax. If it goes over that, then basically you'll be self-employed and you can enter your expenses in. But I'm going to be saying yes here, which basically means I'm self-employed. So that's what you would want to do as well. How many self-employments? We're going to assume you've just got one, and I'm going to call it example. So having done that when we get through to it, the next bit, it will actually throw up bits to complete your tax returns and your self-employment pages. Were you in partnership? No. Did you receive, don't worry, no foreign income? I'm assuming that you're self-employed for example, as a subcontractor, and you haven't got any other complicated income details like this foreign income, and you haven't disposed of a property in the year. But if you did, so for your example, you had a residential let and you sold it, so you've got maybe a capital gain, you'd be needing to fill this bit in. So having filled that bit in, and the main thing we're doing this for is to show this self-employment. Yes, you have got income over £1,000 from self-employment. And then we're going to click save and continue. Right, then tailor your return. This is carrying on. Did you receive any interest? I'm going to say no. Did you receive any dividends? I'm going to say no. But if you did, obviously you would enter yes, and later on you would get a bit to fill out how much you received. Any pension income? I'm going to say no, as usual. Put in whatever it applies to you. Were you or your partner entitled to receive child benefit? This is important if your income is over £50,000, or you or your partner's income is over £50,000, because you have to start paying back child benefit that you might have received. I've got another video about that if you want to look at that somewhere, but I'm going to say no here. Did you receive other UK income? No. Have you made any income tax losses? Say no. Are you liable to pension savings tax? We're not going to go about that, but no. So you save and continue. Still tailoring your return. Did you make contributions to a pension scheme? Say yes if you did, and you'll enter the details in later on. Any gifts to charity? Yes. The reason these are important, another video I've done somewhere, is they will increase your basic rate band if you did make contributions. So it's worth entering these figures in. Same with charity donations. You'll get to pay, the way you get tax relief is it'll increase your basic rate. So if you're a higher rate taxpayer, you'll pay not so much at a higher rate. If you or your spouse or civil partner were born, that's if you're older. I'm talking about sort of 70s and 80s. I think it's 1930. Well, here it is, 1935. That's there was something called a marriage allowance, or married couples allowance, not marriage allowance, married couples allowance, which doesn't apply to most people now, but that's what that is about. This is the marriage allowance, where if one of you doesn't pay tax, and the other one does, as long as you're not a high rate taxpayer, the person who doesn't pay tax can transfer some of their allowance over to the person who does pay tax, as I say, so long as you're not a high rate taxpayer. And that was, I've got another video on that about marriage allowance somewhere. These are likely to be no for you if you normally don't have tax refunded in the year. If you've got an accountant, tick that box yes. If you haven't, no, and you're not, hopefully you're not subject to an avoidance scheme. You'll know if you are, because your accountant will have told you about it and give you a reference number. Do you need to disclose? No, you don't need to do that. Are you acting? No, you don't need to do that. So we'll save and continue. Now that has tailored the tax return for your circumstances, so it's cut out a whole load of stuff and only included the stuff that you do need to do. A tick means you have entered information, and a plus means that you need to do it. Right, so what are we? Self-employed, here you go. So we need to enter information for self-employment. So enter self-employment details, see a tick on that. Okay. did you have an annual turnover of 85,000 or more? Now, if you didn't, you're allowed to just enter your income and a total for your expenses. So you don't need to go through and enter all your individual expenses. Now, for this purposes, to try and make it simpler, I'm going to say no. So we're going to assume that my turnover was under 85,000. If it was over 85,000, stick yes. It's not a huge issue. It just means it will want you to put in information of your individual expenses. For example, if you paid rent, motor expenses, general rates, printing, postage, stationery, all that, you will have hopefully have that information anyway. It's just because if your turnover is under 85,000, you don't need to list them all. You can do it in one block, which is what I'm going to say. So no, I didn't. Please select the circumstances that apply to your self-employment. I am no, you're not a foster. I wish to make an adjustment to my profit for charges. No, it's not going to apply to you probably. I am a farmer, probably not. I am a practitioner, no. I have changed my accounting, probably not. Results of my accounts made up to a date in the year to the 5th of April. No, don't worry about that. My basis period, no. I provide my services. Now, if you're a subcontractor, most of these are going to be zero, or nothing rather. You're not going to put a tick in them, so you can leave them. Abroad, no. No. This will put a lot of people off because you'll think, oh, I don't know about this, but almost certainly you're not going to have anything there. My total turnover is £1,000 or less, and I have made a loss. That's not going to apply to you. I want to declare disguise, definitely not. None of these apply. That sounds like the one, doesn't it? So carrying on. Save and continue. Fill in your return. Now we called my business example. You need to type in what your business is. So let's say subcontractor. Postcode of your business address. That's optional, so I'm not going to do that. Is your business name changed? No. We'll say no. If your business started after the 5th of April, we're going to say no, it didn't, because you're carrying on your business. Did your business cease? No. Did your business cease after the no? Right, that should be that. Hopefully it doesn't come up with any errors. Date your books or accounts are made up to. Right, we do need to write that in. Now I'm going to say 05042019. So I'm doing my figures up to the 5th of April. I'm doing it in tax years. You don't have to do it in tax years, but it does make things simpler if you do. Yes, to cash. Right, I would normally say no to this cash basis. Do you use the cash basis? Say no, and then that will be easier. I'm not going to go into why you should say no, because that's going to get into other fields. Right, save and continue. Fill in. Right, so this is where you enter your figures. Turnover. So let's say my turnover was 75,000. Any other business income? Nope. Trading income allowable. Trading allowance rather. No, not likely to have anything like that. Say your turnover was 75,000. Remember I said my turnover was less than 85. So you can you wouldn't have this option if you'd said it was over 85,000, but because it's under 85,000, you've got this option of doing it as a single total or detailed breakdown. But I'm going to do a single total just to make things easier, and then you put in your figure. So I'm going to, let's say I made a profit of 25, so let's say 50,000 expenses. That would come 25,000 profit. I would have had if I'd had more, it would have come to a loss, and I would have entered in there. Let's carry on with that. Save and continue. fill in your return. Capital allowances and balancing charges. Now, if you've got vehicles or plant and equipment that you haven't put into your expenses, which you shouldn't do if it's a large piece of equipment, what should go in your income and expenses, the expenses would be the expenses that have been incurred in producing the income for that year. So, for example, if you bought a vehicle, that vehicle would be producing income for the next, say, 4 years. So instead of putting that down as an expense, you don't put it down, and instead you claim capital allowances on that sort of thing. Same thing if you bought a piece of equipment that was, I normally say if it's more than £1,000, then you should probably not be including it in expenses, but doing it here for capital allowances. Now, you can have quite a lot of expenditure and get it all in one go anyway. So it's up at the moment it's £1 million. It was £200,000 up to 31st of December just gone 2019, but it's £1 million for a year now. So you can, it doesn't matter if it's not in your expenses, you're probably going to get the whole lot anyway. I'm going to say that I haven't had anything here, so I haven't bought any equipment, but if you did buy some equipment, remember, don't have it in your expenses. It goes here, and you'll get relief here. And the annual investment allowance is probably where you're going to put it, because it's likely in these circumstances to be under the threshold for having to spread it. If there wasn't an annual investment allowance, plant gets 18% a year on a reducing balance. So, for example, if you bought something for £1,000, you would get £180 in the first year. Then next year you get 18% of 1,000 minus 180, and then so on until you sell it. And then there's a balancing event, and that's what that balancing charges bit was here. Or you might be a balancing allowance if you've sold something. But the capital allowances rule is a little bit complicated. So if you've got stuff like that, really you might be wanting to get an accountant, because things are getting a bit more complicated there, and it's not really appropriate for you to be doing things yourself unless you know the capital allowances rules. So, right, so I'm saying there's nothing there, so save and continue. So all I've got is the £75,000 income and the £25,000 costs, 50,000 costs, leaving a 25,000 profit. Now this bit, other adjustments, it's not really going to apply to you, I hope. For example, if you were a restaurant or running a Chinese takeaway or an Indian takeaway, then you might be taking food for yourself for your own purposes, so you might be adjusting figures from the accounts here, but it's not going to apply to you probably. Losses, if you had some brought forward from previous years, then you'd be putting them in here. Any other business income, no, we're probably just going to keep things simple, so no, let's go from there. Right, you can use this self-employment losses. No, we've not got losses. This is basically summarising what's happened already. There aren't any losses, so we save and continue. All right, deductions on payments and deductions statements from. Right, this is where if you're a subcontractor, you might have had tax deducted from your income at 20%. This is where you put it in. This might be the bit where I've had a question from somebody asking me to do this, and they were a little bit unsure. They were a subcontractor. This is where your tax deducted goes in. So deductions on payments and deductions statements from contractors in the construction industry. Subcontractors, yeah. So it says optional, but you're going to need to put it in if you have had it. Otherwise, it won't take account of it. So I don't know why it says optional. So you would put your figure in there. I'm not going to put it in. Well, actually, no. Let's put some in. So let's say I'm a subcontractor, and let's say I've had on my income of £75,000, it's only on the labour part that tax deducted. So let's say I've had £10,000 which is quite a lot. If I've paid 10,000 tax on a profit of 25,000, that's quite a lot. And let's not say that. Let's say 5,000. It's probably a little bit more. And then we'll save. Right, fill in your return. So that is now that bit completed. That's the self-employment. Only select yes. Right, what's this? Class 4 national insurance has gone into the next bit. Are you exempt from paying Class 4? No, you won't be, almost certainly. Save and next. If there's any other information, you would type it in this box, but you're probably not going to be giving any other information, so don't worry about that. So you save and continue. Fill in your tax return. So this is telling me my business turnover. This is like summarising it now. Income was that. Costs of that, profits of that, and I haven't got any capital allowances. I didn't make any sales, so I didn't have any balancing charges. There's no adjustments that I put in, so I got a £5,000 profit. We're not going to add another business, so this looks like it's the end of the business one, so save. Alright, so that's gone back to that bit. Update your self-employment. No, don't need to do that. Recalculate. No, if you'd updated it, you would probably recalculate. If your profit for 2018 less than 6,205, which it isn't, but this is to do with your Class 2 national insurance. Class 2 is what used to be called the stamp. It's this. I think it's £3 a week now. You don't pay it weekly or monthly now. You pay it at the end of the year with your self-assessment bill, and you pay it if your profits are more than that. You can, if your profits are less than that, you can say, yes, you do want to pay it voluntarily, and that will entitle you to a year's worth of state pension. So it's worth doing it, really, because voluntary contributions are much more than that. It's about £12 a week, I think. So I'm going to say, I'm not going to leave that, actually, if it lets me. I'll say, because my profits were more than that, so there is a problem, so it wanted me to fill it out, I think, so I'm going to say yes, I do want to. So save and continue. Fill in your tax return. Right, do you want to pay Class 2? Is there a problem there? I don't know. There is a problem. Your profits are the same or above. Alright, okay, so I'll say no because it's not applicable. Is that done it? Are you registered blind? Oh, I am actually registered blind. That's why I have my screen on white and black, and I can still see a little bit, obviously, because I'm doing this stuff. But I have I have difficulty seeing things, so I have things big and white on black, and I have my mouse big and with a big trail on it so you can see. I'm just going to leave that as it is. Not going to worry about any of that. We're just going to carry on. Save and continue. Right. No, don't worry about. There's no underpayments. So only select no if the amount shown above is. So I'm going to say yes, it's correct. Save and continue. Yes, that's correct. Save and continue. Any amounts outstanding from previous years? I'm just going to say no, there's nothing. Save and continue. Right. Yourself. Oh, this is about. I'm going to say not applicable. That's refunds. Where do you want it to go? But you could put it in. You'd say yourself, and you would put in your bank details if you wanted to go straight to your bank. But I'm saying not applicable just to make it quicker. If you submitted, this is not applicable for if you're self-employed. This is if you want your tax collected via your PAYE code if you're employed. You can do so if it's under a certain amount, but I'm going to say no there. And also I don't want anything collected during the year, but that's not going to be applicable to if you're self-employed. Right, gosh, it's loads of it, isn't there? Increase in tax, no, there's nothing there. Decrease in tax, you wouldn't put anything in there. Any 6th of April repayments? No. I'm just going to carry on with that. Does the return include any provisions or estimates? No. Is there any other information? No. Save and continue. Cool. There's a lot of it, isn't there? Check your return. Right, we're at the end, I think. So, as long as you've got ticks here, if you wanted to go and amend anything, you could just go back in here and do it. Looks like everything's okay, so I'm going to say, next we'll take you to view your calculation. Next. View your calculation. I think I'm going to leave it at that, possibly. Let's have a look. Summary. Right, this will give a summary of what your tax position is. I think somewhere. Total tax payable. I don't know, there's too much blurb on there for me to read it quickly. Don't know. So I'm going to say view and print your full calculation. And that should. So you can see from here. Class 2 national insurance is not available. This profit. So 25,000. That was my profit. Personal allowance 11,850. Everyone would get that. Most people won't get that blind person's allowance. That leaves your taxable income. There you go. Taxable income. Now amount. Percentage, yes, total. Now, where have we got? So that's worked out that I have got a tax and national insurance liability of £3,643 for the year. But do you remember we put in that £5,000 CIS that had already been deducted? That's there. Which means that I'd be due a refund for the year of that amount. So I'm going to leave it at that. You would go through and just keep clicking on next, save and next, and eventually you'll see these are the steps on the left-hand side here. You can save your return, you can save that tax calculation if you want, and eventually you'll get through to the submit your tax return. I hope that is enough. So, good luck. I'm sorry if it's been a little bit scatty. I mean, I don't do this very often, and I have trouble seeing it as well. So, I hope I've done my best on it, and it gives you a bit of a clue. Good luck. Thanks for listening.